Hey, Spider fans. Welcome back to Spider Sound Off. This is Tom.
And this is Porter.
And we are back in the Henrico studios. It's an interesting Sunday. So it's Selection Sunday. So the men, we can ignore. VCU just won. So that's,
Okay.
Yippee for VCU. Women, it's kind of a big night tonight. But we do have an interview today. You want to talk a little about that?
Let's take you back to episode 1 when we got this whole thing started. This is the 35th anniversary of the team that beat Syracuse in the NCAA Tournament, the first 15 to ever beat a 2. That is the Richmond men's team in 1991. And today, March 15th, which we're recording for release on the 16th, is 35 years in one day from that win. And so we have a member of that team to talk a little bit about the game. And we'll talk about the game. We'll also talk about this historic Hall of Famers achievements as well. And that player is
Kenny Wood.
Kenny Wood, folks. Kenny Wood here on Spider Sound Off. Super excited to have him. So
we'll interview Kenny in a second and come back and exit this thing out and talk a little bit about what's going on tonight with the women.
So welcome, Spider fans, to Richmond basketball legend. Let me tell you a little bit about this legend, Kenny Wood, who graduated in the same year that both Tom and I did, of 1993. Before coming into Richmond, Kenny had already made quite a name for himself. He was the New York high school public school scoring leader for the entire state. Like, he was number one. He's since been named to the East Hampton High School Hall of Fame, the Suffolk Sports Hall of Fame, and of course the Richmond Hall of Fame. He was a first team All-CAA player, and he was a key part of that key win against Syracuse, the first 15 ever to beat a 2, if you guys remember that. So please join us in welcoming Kenny to the show. Welcome, Kenny.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you here, Kenny. We're going to talk a lot about your U of R career. Maybe just starting off, kind of, you're from New York. How did I'm from Connecticut, so
Okay.
You can ask me the same question, I guess. But how, from New York, a basketball star, did Richmond kind of get on your radar as a potential place to play?
When I grew in the 80s and early 90s, New York had a thing called the Empire State Games, which was like the Olympics for every sport except for football. So you were separated by your region. So I'm Long Island, so it's New York City, Adirondack, Western, and you go up to Syracuse or somewhere upstate, some big college campus. I think it was mostly at Syracuse, and you played basically like the Olympics. So, and gearing up for that, being from Long Island, and it's also Scholastic in college. So you got to make the Scholastic team, and then part of the prep is, when I was in high school, we would play against the college group, and Kenny Atkinson was one of the guys on the college team. So I ended up playing, we would play them maybe once a week, or we played them several times, and I would always play really well against the college guys as a Scholastic guy. So Atkinson put the call into Richmond and said, basically, you guys may want to recruit this guy out here on the end of Long Island. So that's kind of how it started.
Well, that's interesting. Like a player recruiting a player. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Did you ever have like Dick Tarrant come and visit the house and talk to you?
I mean, back then it was different than it is now. The high school guys were the big, recruiting thing. So Coach Bill Dooley was the main recruiter for me during that time. And then Coach Tarrant would come out as well. But it was really, Dooley was the one that, I've kind of formed a good relationship. He was out at the, in the Long Island watching me play quite often. So we got to know Dooley really well.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Now, did you know, I guess when that whole started, about, the 80s, or how much did they pitch kind of, hey, we've been to the Sweet 16, we're kind of a Cinderella? Was that something you were aware of as just kind of watching the tournament as a kid?
Yeah, it was a little bit. I mean, I was familiar with it because my sister went to VCU. So,
okay.
I was
We won't
familiar
hold
with,
that against her.
Yeah. Yeah. We were familiar with being down in Richmond, and then, getting into high school once you're recruiting, and different colleges are telling you different things. I had a great high school coach that kind of helped me with the process. It was before AAU or any of that stuff. So it was really with my high school coach. So we kind of went over all of that, where Richmond has, the size of the school, chances of playing early compared to some of the bigger schools. So we kind of went with a thorough background and everything. And then, the coaches are telling you that throughout the recruiting process.
What was the second choice? What did you not choose instead of Richmond? Where else was Kenny thinking about?
Pittsburgh was up there.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to get the warmer weather, so some of the UMass and I guess probably the only one down south that I started to think about a little bit was NC State.
Okay.
But Richmond kind of checked all the boxes that I wanted it to at the time. So coming down, I don't say it made it much easier to make the decision.
Nice.
What was your transition like? So now you're kind of enrolled, you're starting to practice. Did you feel like, hey, this is a whole nother level, or it's like, hey, I'm prepared for this, I'm ready to go?
I think you always think you're prepared, but you're never really prepared. And it's the difference between preseason and the season and all that stuff. I mean, when we were there, it was really the play was the preseason stuff was really captain ran, and so the pickup and all that stuff was kind of run by the players. The coaches couldn't have that much. It's just totally different than it is now.
Yeah,
they
right.
really couldn't start until October 15th. So everything was run by what was Atkinson and Scotty Stapleton were the two guys, the two main seniors who we kind of had to, any of the things in Millhiser Gym they put together. We had the strength coach to do the weight room, and they did the running and stuff like that. So it was really, you're with those guys a lot and you're playing pickup a lot, so as a freshman, you knew you could handle the play, but once the season started, it was a lot different because you're not just playing pickup. We ran a really intense kind of structure back then that again is stuff that teams don't do like anymore. I mean, we probably had 40 or 50 set plays that we had to memorize and run. So
wow,
you can memorize them, but then are you able to do it under the gun, and then if you played different positions, you had to learn different, I mean, each position was kind of different. So it was definitely a learning experience that way, more than just the actual play. It was, do you know what you're doing? You know where you're supposed to be? Can you get there on time? And then you had to be like, you couldn't be a robot basically. Yep. So
was that kind of like first day of practice? You got the playbook? I think of like football, they have the playbook, or no, they just kind of introduced one play.
Yeah, it was overtime. It was overtime. And it's just, it's just something that's kind of ingrained in your head back then where I still remember them all now, 30 some odd years later. It's kind of crazy, but you do something every day, time after time, you kind of, if you follow basketball, you can, I mean, I just still remember, it just became a part of like my basketball history, I guess you say, knowing all of our set plays that we had.
Yeah. So you had played for a legendary coach in high school, Coach Petrie, if I read that correctly, who I think was one of the leaders in all-time wins in New York State. And then you have Coach Tarrant, who's a legend in Richmond. So kind of compare and contrast what each coach brought to the table and what you learned from each of those guys.
Both were huge fundamentals. That's probably the biggest thing that both of them were just fundamental was a key part of both of them, which was kind of one of the reasons I liked Richmond, just because it was almost like a continuation of high school for me, and I had a successful high school career. So that was a big, and Coach Dooley formed a really good relationship with my high school coach, which was very important. Okay. He had two sons and guys that had been coaching with him for a while. So Coach Dooley formed a great relationship with them. So it was, that part of it was kind of seamless, like as far as like the fundamentals and all that stuff. But then, you get into college, you have everybody focused on, it's no two-sport athletes. It's practice every day, it's preseason, it's all that. So the intensity definitely picked up. So that was the biggest thing with the intensity. And then, high school, you got a head coach and assistant coach. Richmond, you got a head coach and 4 or 5 assistant coaches. So it's more detailed. So you're able to, so the coaches are, you can't cheat as much. You can't, take a break as much. You kind of get called out for it. So, but Coach Petrie was a tough coach, as well as Coach Tarrant was a tough coach to play for. They held you to a certain standard that you had to follow. Otherwise, you wouldn't play. I mean, I kind of would have played in high school, but I would have got chewed out a lot. But when you get to college, you got to do these little things in order to be able to get time on the court.
Now, you were a 4-year starter at U of R, so you must have followed those rules well as a freshman, or well enough. Was that kind of part of the game plan when you went in? Like, hey, I'm going to find a way to start as a freshman.
No, it wasn't even something I was thinking. I didn't start off starting. I ended up not starting until like the second half of the year. Once I got more comfortable, I would have not been ready to start early. I'm trying to think. My freshman year, we ended up using a small lineup, I think, and it was Terry Conley and myself playing the 4 and 5, and we were kind of interchangeable. And then Scott, Stapleton, Curtis, and Kenny, I think, who ended up starting until we got to like the tournament, and we faced Duke, and they were, they had 2 6'11" guys, so we had to make some changes there. But I think it wasn't a plan kind of going in; it just kind of happened. The more I got comfortable, I knew my talent would be enough that I was good enough to do it. It's just a matter of, I think you can be good enough, talented enough, but you got to be able to perform, basically. So that's kind of a progress. It's hard for especially then coming in and just playing. Shoot, it's hard for freshmen now coming in playing too, but then it was for a different reason. You're playing against, competing against 3 or 4 year starters who have been in the system who are doing it. Now you're doing it. Freshmen coming in playing against a 23, 24-year-old guy. So it's different, but it wasn't a plan of mine. It just kind of happened.
Are there any of the players that took you kind of under their wing and were kind of a mentor to you when you first got to campus, or did you just have to
it was pretty interesting because Atkinson was very prideful guy, and we're down in Richmond, down Virginia, and being a New Yorker on the team, he wanted to make sure that, and a Long Island and a Suffolk County guy, so he was probably the one at first that kind of showed me how to like work out and train. So he would get me in the gym a lot, and I would watch him work out with him and pick up some of the stuff that he did. So initially he was the first one that kind of just said, all right, it's whatever. You get a call and he's like, meet me in the gym. So you go to the gym and you got to work out with Kenny. So that was good because it kind of taught me how to work out really. Again, it's a different level, and he was really intense and deliberate about what he did. So it kind of helped me to figure out what I needed to do. I mean, he was a point guard. I was a forward or center, whatever. So it was different, but it was helpful just seeing the intensity and the level of detail that he used. And that was helpful for me to kind of create my own way of working out.
Was there a low point that first year? I mean, sometimes college transitions are hard. You're not only having to go a long way away to college, but you're also having to play a full-time sport. Is there any times where you said, wow, this stinks?
Yeah.
I have one too I'll share with you, and it involves Richmond basketball and JMU, by the way, at a Midnight Madness game.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a universal one there. I
drove up for that game and was at the Convocation Center for that midnight game. So it was,
I don't even know if it was an eye-opener. I would say that one. And then my first game, we played NC State in the preseason NIT, and just going from practicing and having some exhibition games to going out and playing then, and not knowing if you're going to get in. And I don't think we had any subs in the first half, and because I was the first sub coming off the bench. So I knew either, unless it was a point guard, however we did it. So I got called in and got the ball, and it was on national TV, and caught it in the corner, and I was open and didn't shoot it. And then I passed, and we came down the other, and I got taken out. And I was like, he's like, you're in the game to shoot the ball. If you're not going to shoot it, then, and I was kind of happy to come out. I was so nervous just getting in. So that was the first one. And then I think that one, then you had the JMU one. I think each one of them helped us. The JMU game helped us because I think we went on a run after that and never wanted to have that happen again. And then
We talked about that game on an earlier episode, and I was trying to remember somebody on the team hit like a half-court shot right before halftime. I mean, we were down, they were more than doubling our score, but somebody hit a half-court shot right before the buzzer, and I remember turning to the guy next to me and said, well, at least we have that.
Yeah, I do remember that. Maybe Scotty Stapleton. I remember someone. Yeah, I kind of remember that game was such a blur because the atmosphere was crazy. It was midnight. It was on ESPN. It smelled like a frat house in the gym because the
fraternities had been getting ready for that game for hours.
Yeah, all hours, and how their gym was set up. It was kind of a bunch of stuff. I think the bus dropped us off at the wrong door, so we had to go in through the band. It was a bunch of stuff leading up to that, and then that loss and driving back from JMU to Richmond without anyone saying anything on the bus was a thing. But I think it did help us. Any things like that, you can either fold or you can, bounce back. And we took that loss pretty, hard that day, then came back, and I think we went on some good runs after that. So that carried us through I don't know if we lost again. We may have lost like William and Mary or someone, like a weird one, but it kind of took us all the way through to the tournament, and we went. And then, I guess the eye-opening one there again too was the loss to Duke in the tournament.
Yeah,
playing in that first.
Well, that was a pretty good Duke team.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
They went to the
team.
finals, right?
Yeah, they lost to the finals. So, but losing to them, that first 12 o'clock game on the first day was not. It was just tough there with not a lot of people in the arena and playing Duke. I think Duke had just lost in the ACC tournament, so they came out and definitely was a different level. But then that kind of helped us to prepare for my sophomore year. I think we lost out. You realize you have to get bigger and stronger. So, we took that loss, and then that next Monday we're all in the weight room lifting and getting ready for that next year. So I think that kind of propelled us too. So yeah, we had some tough things, but I think we used them. We had such a group of good guys and good coaches that we kind of use that to kind of fuel us for the next level.
Yeah, and speaking of your sophomore year, I mean, so you had Curtis coming back. Obviously, Terry came back. You had Springer and Shields were kind of from the bench, now kind of more part of the rotation. And when I think back to my 4 years at U of R, my favorite moment on campus at games was that Georgia Tech game.
Yeah.
Sophomore year, they bring in Kenny Anderson, who kind of, if you followed sports, you knew was kind of a phenom. And that game went to that kind of last-second tip-in by Jim Springer. Take us back to the kind of that game, maybe the prep of having a powerhouse come in, a team that U of R seemed to have something going against Georgia Tech the few years before.
Yeah.
We had beaten them a couple times, but what was that moment like for you, kind of knowing Kenny Anderson's coming to town and kind of a big game against a great Bobby Cremins team?
Yeah, I mean, because I knew him. I knew Kenny we were the same year in New York, so we had played against each other and done different. Our high school coaches were really close. Like our high school coach was they were 1 and 2 in like wins in New York State. Like they may have played college basketball. I mean, they knew each other for 40 years prior. So we were kind of familiar with. And then of course we were familiar with Kenny Anderson, from the Empire State games. I mean, we played against them in the summer. So, but then they had the rest of their guys. So we had played Georgia Tech our freshman year, and I think they had Dennis Scott and some of these other guys that I would see on TV. So it was interesting getting these guys coming into the Robins Center and playing, and we battled them and hung in there. And I mean, we were never really, intimidated of. It's kind of like now, the guys play against each other. And I think for the fans and people out there, it's a bigger thing to play against a Power 5 or a bigger team. But the guys out there, I think, you're just out there playing. So it ended up being a good game. We hung in there, we battled, and we're fortunate at the end where Springer got the tip in to win it. So it was a lot of fun.
A question, we've talked about Dick Tarrant, obviously kind of a Hall of Fame guy, Hall of Fame coach for us. He always seemed really serious. Now, I think when we beat Syracuse, we'll get to that in a bit, you could tell he was having a little bit of fun. But, so we beat Georgia Tech, the crowd charges the court. When the game's over, did Coach Tarrant smile and, feel good about it, or it was like, hey, we got another game in whatever 2 days, 3 days? He was kind of all business.
I don't know if you say smile. I just think that it's like kind of this. I don't want to say mission accomplished, but it's like, all right, make a check mark here. You got that one. You showed you could do it. Let's not get too full of yourself, because you got to come back and keep it going, right? So it was one of those things where you stay grounded, and you realize it was huge, it was big, you celebrate it, and you go. Then you come to practice the next day, and you're getting shown what you did wrong, right? There's no real celebration to it. So that's kind of how it was, because your goal isn't just to beat a team like that. Your goal is to, back then you had to win your conference tournament to get in. So you're just trying to do all these things to build your conference, to win your conference tournament, so you can make it to the big dance.
35 years ago today, 35 years ago yesterday, was probably, up until maybe just recently, the greatest upset in the history of the NCAA tournament. A 15 takes down a 2.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about what it felt like when the bracket came out and you guys see yourselves on the line against Syracuse. What was the reaction amongst the team? What was the thought process, the preparation like?
Thought process is we can score against them. I mean, because we had Duke the year before, and we knew that was going to be tough. But Syracuse, you're like, oh, we can play Duke last year. We can score against Syracuse. So we knew they weren't going to come out and, with Duke, they knew every one of our plays. They knew every one of our sets, and we had a whole lot of stuff. So they were, you're on the court, and we call out a play, and they're calling out the play. So it was a different level of preparedness. We knew that Syracuse wouldn't. They may have had more talent, but we knew we could kind of do our stuff against them. It's just a matter of taking care of the ball and playing our game, which so yeah, we felt good. We were excited about it, and again, I knew a lot of those guys from New York as well. So it made it. And then a year of experience, you come in thinking. Year of experience thinking, you can come in and do more things, and we'll be able to move a little bit more. Duke, it was like you couldn't move. They were just at a different level at that time.
Wow.
Now that was in Maryland, right? That's a
it was at College Park at Coalfield House. Yeah.
What was the atmosphere like? Did it feel very pro Richmond? Did Syracuse travel
that
well?
was one good thing. Coach Tarrant the coaches knew that since we were close geographically, that we would get a good contingent of Richmond people coming up. And for Syracuse, it was probably like they were going to advance and go and play in the Meadowlands in the Sweet 16 round. So we knew that as the underdog, you're going to eventually have, if it's a neutral crowd, the underdog is eventually going to get all those neutral people to join their side. So we knew if we kept it close and kept it there, that's something that we would have to our advantage, that they would get behind us, which they ended up doing. So it ended up being a great situation for us.
So there's a moment in that game, or a point in time in that game, where you're like, we can do this. I mean, you have all the confidence, I'm sure, going in, but was there any point where like you could tell the team was like ready to take it?
I mean, I think we knew all along that, we started off the game winning the game, and I think we never were behind the entire game. So again, I just think of how we played, what we may have scored, against Duke the year before. Did we score 45 points? Something like that.
45 or something like that.
Yeah. So, and I think Syracuse, it was just a much easier flow. So we knew that if we could score, and, I think we were the one that got Syracuse going to a 2-3 zone. Like that's where, because they really couldn't guard us. They're as good as they were, as talented as they were, as big as they like couldn't guard us man to man, because our sets were so good, and our coaches had prepped us so well on what we could do and what we couldn't do. So it was never like a time where we're like, oh shoot, we can win this. I think we always thought we could win the game.
Have you played the game for the kids yet to show them
Yeah, I think
the
they've
moment?
seen it. They've seen it. I mean,
Okay.
they heard about it enough because we're from here. So, so I
My
don't.
kids have seen it.
Yeah, so I don't need to show it. I'm sure when they were younger we watched it, but they kind of heard about it, once they were playing. And it seems around here it seems like everybody was at the game. Like you meet people and they talk about it. They're like, "Oh, I was at that game," and I'm like, "It can only hold what?" And I don't even know what Cold Fieldhouse held, but so yeah, so no, I don't. I'm sure they did a while ago. I can't remember, but I'm sure we sat down and watched it.
What was that locker room like after the win?
It was pretty good. I mean, it was funny. I was at an event, and geez, when was in the fall, and the equipment manager from Maryland was there, who I knew when I worked for Adidas. So he was equipment manager for Maryland, but he had to wash at that time. The host team, they washed the uniforms, and the big thing at that game is we had to get drug tested, so you had to do a urine test. So I think you really couldn't celebrate. I couldn't because I think it took like over 2 hours for me to be able to take my urine test. So I was in a room for like hours afterwards. So by the time I'd left or anything, it was like midnight or so. So it was not much celebrating.
Everybody had gone home.
Everybody had gone. So we were it's kind of a weird thing there. So it wasn't a lot of celebrating from my standpoint. I don't know what other guys did, but I was kind of stuck.
Yeah, that stinks.
Yeah.
Was there any motivational speech from Tarrant during the pregame or during halftime? Anything that kind of stuck with you?
No, I mean, it was almost like, we had been there before in that situation, and just the atmosphere was totally different that second year, just a smaller venue. We were in the Omni my freshman year, and may have been 5,000 people in a 25-seat stadium. And here it was more like a college atmosphere, right? So we liked that. It appealed to us. And yeah, no, it was no real motivation, just like, they're bigger, they're better, but we play better. I mean, our big thing was we play better basketball than they do, and that was always our big thing, is playing better basketball. So if we played I think we had like 5 things we had to do, our 5 pillars or whatever: free throws, less than 10 turnovers a game, and defensive rebounds, certain key points we had to do. And we knew if we did that we would make it a game. And, we felt confident in our preparation, that if it's a close game, that we could execute better than probably any other team in the country when it came down to possession by possession.
Yeah, I think when you see the highlights of that game now, there's always like the Terry Connolly behind the back pass.
Yeah.
Is one of those, which is that's probably not a play Coach Tarrant
Yeah.
ever instructed you to do, but when it works, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah. I mean, you go by possession, it's definitely, we were precise on what we wanted to do, and they had some great plays at the end. The ball bounced their way a few times, and we just were fortunate to make some plays when we needed to hit some big free throws as well.
Yeah. So maybe fast forward a bit to kind of, I guess, all of our senior year. It was kind of ended up being the last season of Dick Tarrant. Kind of retired at the end of that year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was there a point in that season where like he told the team like, "Hey, I think this is my last year," or that was just another year for you, and it wasn't until kind of before the next season that you heard that he was retiring?
Yeah, no, it was nothing. I mean, maybe it was talk about it, but with no social media, and I didn't read the newspaper, so or the sports section back then to know. We wouldn't have. I didn't hear about it. I didn't. Kind of just focused in. We had lost a bunch of close games that year, which was frustrating. So yeah, I didn't really. It wasn't like a thing where we thought about this may be his last year or anything like that.
Do you look back and like have some, pride that your 4 years were his last 4 years? You got to kind of experience kind of the last 4 years of a legend like Coach Tarrant.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, you just wish we could have, for both his sake and our sake, finished a little bit better that last year and made it to the tournament. but yeah, we just had some tough losses during that year that kind of hurt us. That just didn't put us in the position. But yeah, you always wish you could have won more games that year and finished it on a higher note than we did. I think we lost to NC Wilmington in the tournament. We had beaten them twice, and it was just not the way you wanted it to end.
After graduation, where did your path take you after Richmond?
After I left Richmond, I played for about 5.5 or close to 6 years professionally in 6 different countries, mostly in Spain, but took me around, got to see the world, got to meet a lot of new people, continued to play basketball. So it was good. It was definitely good to continue it on and keep playing.
Do you still stay connected with any of your Richmond teammates from that class?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do a good job at trying to stay in touch with a lot of the guys from that class, my class, and the classes around me. Guys that I went to the 4 years I'm, there with. I think I try to do a good job of staying in touch with as many of them as possible.
Nice. Was there a funniest guy amongst the crew? Anybody that was like just the funniest guy on the team during those 4 years?
Funniest? I have who would be that? I have no idea.
If it was a team that wasn't focused on humor, that's okay too.
Yeah, it was just I don't think we had any like jokesters, right? It was all just good guys who just got along and had fun together,
Yeah, I remember a moment freshman year. I think it was the only year of our 4 years. We had a big snowstorm on campus. And I remember we were both we weren't roommates, but we were both in Wood Hall. And there was like the giant snowball fight, like in that little triangle in front of Wood Hall.
Yeah.
And I remember at some point, Scott Stapleton like charged a group of us and like slipped and fell. And he was like face down in the snow, and I'm a freshman just like pummeling snowballs at Scott Stapleton. And he's like has this giggle kind of scream coming out.
Yeah. That's the funniest guy. That would probably, that's that's a good one there. He definitely was. Yeah. Yeah.
We definitely have to talk about, just for a moment, your son, James Wood. It seems like the athletics gene is in the Wood family, because you had an older brother who was a great college player, made the NBA. Kenny Wood was a great player, Hall of Fame everywhere. And then you have this remarkable son, James, who's one of the best baseball players in the world. So tell us a little bit about, when you kind of realized that you had kind of a prodigy on your hands.
Well, I'd say, we had 3, I have 2 daughters and a son. So James is the youngest, and the girls play basketball as well. So it was, got to experience the basketball side with them as well. He played basketball also, but just focused later on in baseball. So I would say, maybe junior year, maybe, because he went down to IMG in Florida and was playing down there. And you could always tell that he was kind of different on the baseball, more of a basketball player on the baseball field, just because of his size and how he moved and different things like that. So I always kind of knew that he had some potential, had good athletic ability, good size, and could move well. So, had pretty good hand-eye coordination. So you always thought that it was opportunity. I just didn't know a ton about, I played baseball, but I didn't know about that next level of baseball. So, but, looking back, thinking about it, I think it's, you can look at a player and see how easy they do certain things, where other players, it's it looks more difficult, and it is more difficult. So I think all along you kind of had that with him. And baseball is such a sport on like, they want you to do it a certain way. And it's good that he didn't do it, he did it his way, right? He wasn't, because it's, the average MLB player is 5'11" and a half, right? So the taller you are, the harder it is. So, what baseball also does is like, they think that like everything has to be the same for everyone, and it's not, right? So we were fortunate he was with coaches who allowed him to kind of do things his way, not necessarily his way, that's a bad way of saying it, but, didn't try to make him like every other player that was out there. So I think that
gave him some freedom of expression to be who he was.
I mean, and not express, but like play, how you throw, how you run, how you do all these things. Like a person's 5'11", their swing isn't the same as someone that's 6'3", 6'4" at the time. So it was good. So I would say probably junior year, probably the biggest time was during COVID. We went to a workout because he was at IMG Academy and they left for COVID, came home. So he was at IMG. My oldest daughter, Kayla, was a manager of the Notre Dame women's basketball team. Then my the middle child, our youngest daughter, Sydney, was playing basketball at Northwestern. So they ended up all coming home. But so we were home for a while. Then we went to get his stuff. They just literally had to pack up and leave IMG. So him and I think we drove down to IMG, and then we went to an event that was run by a Richmond alum, Steve Bernard, who ran the baseball factory at the time. And he was going to have, everyone was with masks, and they were doing tryouts for their All-American, the first tryouts for the All-American team that Steve picks. And we had a workout with a guy that was his year, but he was like a top 5 player in the country. And then a guy that was a year younger that was like the number 1 or 2 player in the country. And it was a workout with a trainer and all this stuff. And we went, and watching him after the work, he worked out with these guys, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, wait a second, if these guys are ranked this high, like what the heck is he? Because they were like amazed by him. So we get in the car and we kind of like didn't say anything, but it kind of like hit us there, like, you could be pretty good, So that summer, I ended up playing travel ball and for a team down in Carolina. So we traveled a lot. So it ended up, that's where you kind of took off, really. And then you kind of realize the buzz from pro ball started happening more and more. So that's probably the real time. Like, it's all these other times people want to say, oh, we knew this time, that you really don't know. At least we didn't. But, that's probably the one time. So I would say going into senior year, we realized that, all right, he may not go to college now. So it was good.
When he got, because he originally was with the Padres, is that right?
Yeah, it was drafted with San Diego.
So when he got traded to the East Coast, to the Nats, was the family happy about that?
We were kind of mixed, honestly, because we liked San Diego as well. And,
weather's pretty nice out there.
Yeah. So, so we were kind of mixed, and then, it grew. Then you realize you could see him more. He's around more, and you're really thinking of like the kid, right? Is he going to be comfortable? It's a big change at 19 years old to get traded. So it was fortunate, it ended up being a fortunate thing that it was here, local, so we could be around, and we could go to Fredericksburg and then kind of be around, and he was home with us. It was of all the places, ended up being a good all around spot.
That's great. I don't want to shortchange Kayla and Sydney, so tell us about their journey. It sounds like Sydney played for Northwestern. Did Kayla play college ball too?
Yeah, so Kayla played high school basketball here, and she liked basketball, didn't love it. Sydney more or less loved it, but Kayla wanted to be around sports and everything. And when she probably would have been a D3 play. She could have definitely played at a D3 level. And it's something we talked about. And once she got accepted in Notre Dame, we're like, all right, let's look at that. And we had some family history there where, my wife's great uncle, right? Her grandfather's brother was the first African-American to graduate from Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
So we had some family history going there too as well. So that made it even a little bit more special. So she ended up going to Notre Dame for freshman year. She kind of learned her way around and figured things out. Then her sophomore through senior year, she was a manager. So she was there with Muffet McGraw's last year, and then to start in the L Ivies tenure at Notre Dame. So it was good. So she got to be, she worked harder and spent more time than Sydney did playing basketball at Northwestern, and Kayla did than James did playing baseball. Just because
Wow.
it's. I mean, we have friends whose kids are have managed at schools, but like it was different there at Notre Dame. Like she's you're the first person on the bench, so you're right next to the scores table. So you got to be locked in on the game. You got to be in top of timeouts and all of these things. So you're really like a part of the game. So it's not just doing laundry and doing all those stuff. You did that, but when it came to game time, when you're on. When you're on, you're on. When you're the head manager, you're on. So you're there, like locked in. You're basically like a coach. So for her, it was good. It was intense. She loved it. It gave her great experience. It helped her with job opportunities when she left because she had to give examples of what she did. And so it was great for her. So it kind of gave her a jump start into her career. So she lives around in D.C. now. She's an environmental scientist. So it's great. So we get to see her a lot. So it's good.
I was going to say, I mean, you went to Richmond, which is an excellent academic school. You have a daughter at Northwestern, which is an excellent academic school, and a daughter at Notre Dame, again, another truly excellent academic school. So, I mean, forget the athletics for a second. Just the brain power to get through those three colleges is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So you did something right, my man.
I give my wife credit for that. She was, so it was good. And then Sydney, played here high school basketball at St. John's in DC, and which was at one of the higher levels in the country, playing the WCAC on the girls' side here, especially then when she played. But I think it's just kind of like a factory they have, whether it's AZ Fudd, who's at UConn now, or you had every school, it was just day in, day out, you're playing against other Division I players. So she went to Northwestern, had a great career, hurt her back her senior year. So she ended up with the COVID year, taking an extra year, and ended up getting her master's from Northwestern, which was great. So she was a 4-year starter, 5 years, to however you want to say it, there as well. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it was good for her. She was all academic, all defensive. I think 3 of the 5 years she was there.
That's
so
awesome.
It was good. So she now works for, she coaches with the San Antonio Spurs G League team. So she's probably the youngest coach in the G League. I think she's 25 now. So yeah, so she's there on the bench with the Spurs G League. So she's, loves basketball. So it's right up her alley, coaching and being involved with the team there.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, Kenny, this is it's awesome talking to you today. Takes us back to when we felt young.
Yeah, right.
We're all old now, but really appreciate you spending time with us today. It's been great talking about the good old days, but also learning about kind of what you're up to, kind of where how what a successful parent you've been, you and your wife.
Yeah, who's also a UR alum too. She's that's in '94.
Nice.
So yeah. So
our research department did not find that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this guy.
Were you of our marriages too?
Okay, nice.
Married.
Yeah.
My wife's 94. His Porter's is 93.
Okay. So.
Yeah. So we're just like Kenny Wood.
There you go.
Without the athletic ability.
Yeah, without any athletic ability.
No, good stuff.
Well, Kenny, thank you very much. It's been an honor talking to you and learning more about everything you've accomplished.
No, good. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate you, and thanks for being a Spider. If you pull your camera down for 1 second just to end this thing, so that people can see your shirt, because you are wearing a Richmond shirt.
Oh yeah, it's a. You're not going to guess what it's a football shirt.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. The branding works.
This is Greg Beck. This is when I worked for Adidas, and when I worked for Adidas, when I worked for Adidas, we got Richmond football was in Nike. Everybody was in the Nike. We got them to switch. Beckwith helped me out getting them to switch. I'm getting confused. Yes, Richmond did switch to Adidas. So this is Adidas hoodie here. Back when they're back in Adidas now. So which is good.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. All right.
Well, thanks again, Kenny. We appreciate you, and we'll be looking out for you at any Spider event in the future. And good luck to James this year on the Nats. And look forward to watching him on TV.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
So that was a great interview with Kenny Wood, legend in Spider circles. That gets us ready for tonight, Tom. And where are we heading next?
Yeah, so tonight we've been lucky enough, some of the privileges, I guess, of media to be invited to the women's selection show party, or hopefully a party.
It's not a big open door policy
No.
party. It's kind of a private affair, but we're going to get to go and sit and watch the selections unfold in real time with the players and the coaches. And like we've been talking about, it's a 50-50 kind of thing. I mean, we should be in the tournament, we believe, but you never know.
Yeah, that's right. I was looking today, like CBS Sports was the one like bracket that had been updated in the last 24 hours that had us out. I think
Okay.
the three others I looked at had us in the last four.
Okay.
So, but it's it's tight. We're definitely we are in if we're in, we're going to be in one of those first four games.
Playing games.
They're not playing games. They're first four.
First four games. Not playing games.
But anyway, so what we're going to do,
Well-respected first-round games.
to fans still,
Which leads you to another first-round
Hold
game.
on, yeah. To the fans that are still listening, what we're going to do is that when we make the NCAA tournament tonight, we will post and attach to this kind of a little video from just our phones in celebration. If you don't see that video after this, that's because we'll be playing in the WBIT at some point this week in the Robins Center, but we're not going to be celebrating that today. We can talk more about that later. But hopefully this is followed by us being a bunch of morons screaming and hooting and hollering because the women's team is in the big tournament. But until then, or until next time, this is Tom.
And this is Porter.
And this is Spiders sounding off.
See ya.
So, Spider fans, we are here with Coach Aaron Roussell moments after the announcement that Richmond has gotten the second consecutive at-large bid to the NCAA Tournament, the third in 3 years. It's in Durham, North Carolina. Coach, tell us a little bit about what the Spider fans can do to help support you guys on this journey.
Oh, we got to get on the road, man. We got to get on the road, road trip. Obviously one of the most historic arenas in any sport in the country. If you've not been to Cameron Indoor, this is your chance. If you've been to Cameron Indoor, you know it's really cool, and we got to get you all down there. So it'll be Wednesday night. We'll get logistics. We'll get information out there. Big Ten opponent, Nebraska. So scouting report has already started, close to being done. This was a team that we kind of eyed that we might happen. So I know I will see you guys down there.
Yeah, definitely.
We're looking for a lot of Spider faithful to join us. So go Spiders, and let's celebrate this game.
See you Wednesday.